Once you log into the Nodeware portal, you'll be taken to the Elements screen. From there, you'll be able to see the average network score across all of your customers. You'll be able to see the total number of customers that you had defined to Nodeware, the number of licenses that you have distributed to those customers, as well as the total number of devices being monitored for vulnerabilities. You'll also be able to see the latest blogs from the IGI cybersecurity news. To look at your customers, you can drill into the customers element, the average score element, or select the customers item from the menu. From here, you'll be able to see all of the customers that you have defined to the Nodeware environment. You can sort by date added, by name, or if you want to do a quick search, you can simply start typing the customer's name and they will appear quickly. As you can see here, we have two customers defined. Both of them have pretty good network scores. This one here has 3 criticals. So you want to see what's going on within that environment and within that customer. Simply click and you'll be taken directly to that customer's environment. So what we are looking at here is this one particular customer, and you can see they have a pretty good network score. As of the last inventory, they had 55 devices that were online. And as a reminder, we take an inventory within your customer's environment every minute. And we do that so we can detect when new devices come online. Since the Nodeware sensor has been active, we have done vulnerability scans on 101 unique devices, and we have identified 114 unique devices. The difference between these two numbers are devices that have come online and left your environment, come online and then gone offline before a vulnerability scan has been performed on it, or has come onto your network and is currently queued for a vulnerability scan. For each of the endpoints, we will show you if that node is online or offline, what its current IP address is, what its unique MAC address is, what the host name is, and if you don't like the host name or it's missing, you can go ahead and give it an alias. In this case, we'll call it IP phone. And once you save it, that alias is now tied to that device. We'll also show you what the operating system is, the status of the vulnerability scans, and what the endpoint score is, the node health score. So the different statuses are: check is that it has been scanned at least once. A red flag will indicate that there is at least one critical vulnerability on there. And let's show you a few others. This is showing that these devices have been excluded from vulnerability scans. And there's 2 more I would like to show you. The lightning bolt is saying that this device is new to our network within the past 24 hours. And this is showing us that the device is currently queued to be scanned for the first time. We have a couple quick searches available up here. If I'd like to see by operating system, for example, Windows, there's all my Windows operating systems. If I want to see devices that are new within my network, these are all the devices that have been on my network new for the first time within 24-hour period. If I want to search by a particular name or keyword search, for example, sales, here's all the devices assigned to my sales team and are out on the sales floor. Or in this particular case, I'm very interested in the critical vulnerabilities. So here are the devices that have criticals on them. And this one right here, this VMware server, has a very low score and has a critical vulnerability. Let's see what's going on. Simply click on it. And now I will be looking at all the vulnerabilities on that one node. So we have a score of 407. We have identified 53 unique vulnerabilities. So they are sorted from worst, highest critical on down. So right here we have a critical vulnerability. It says something about being able to do remote code execution. If I click on it, I'll get a full description of what's going on. I can see the tests that were run against it. little bit of a description, and if I read more, it will tell me that this will allow me to do denial of service attacks on this endpoint, or actually into the network from this endpoint. There is a resolution to it. We can apply missing patches, and to get those patches, we simply will click down here. At this point, we will exit the Nodeware environment, and we will go to whoever that vendor is that has this vulnerability. In this particular case, it is the VMware. So we're going to VMware for this known vulnerability. There's a full description of the vulnerability here, as well as how to fix it. And if we get down far enough, the solution is right here as a patch. Now, Nodeware will not actually do the remediation services, but we'll take you right to the point where you can get the information you need to do the remediation services. So in this particular case, there's a patch. You can click on that and download the patch and apply it when you're ready to. So going back to the vulnerability, we've shown you the description of it and how to do the remediation. If for whatever reason you'd like to accept this risk and not do remediation on it, you can hit accept. And as you can see, the node score has gone up. And if I go back to the report for this node, it will show me that it has been accepted, but it's still red, so we know that there is a critical that is out there, but we have accepted it, and it is no longer affecting the score. Now, if I go back to all the devices, I will see that my score is no longer red here, but we will keep the flag here to let you know that there is a critical vulnerability that is out there. Even if you've accepted it, it's a nice reminder to let you know that it's out there. So we'll click on it one more time. We will look at all the vulnerabilities, see this accepted critical. And let's say now we want to do the remediation on it. I can unaccept it, go ahead, drill through, apply the patch, and then come back and look at the other vulnerabilities on it. And let's say now that we've taken care of the critical and the highs and several of the mediums, and we want to see what the new score is to validate that we've corrected this appropriately. So if we hit rescan, this will now submit this node to be at the top of the queue so that when the next vulnerability scan is available, this device will be the next one to be scanned and it will be assigned a new score. So we can go back and look at all the devices. I want to define my criticals. First, let me go back and look at that one device that we've done the remediation on. And just to show you this new symbol here is to show you that it has been submitted and is queued up for a rescan. But once again, I'm going to look at the criticals. Because what I'd like to show you here, we're going to go into this router. And we'll see that there is a critical that's found here, default admin credentials. This is a very common one. It's not always as complex as applying a patch or changing configuration. Sometimes it's the simple things that can get us as well, such as adding a new router to a network and forgetting to change the default passwords, admin. That's an easy one to go back and fix. So what we've shown you here is it's very easy to look at a customer, to look at all the devices that are on a network, to identify a particular endpoint you want to look at, to be able to simply one click, be able to get into all the vulnerabilities, within another click to get the definition of that vulnerability, and within a third click, getting to the remediation. Very simple to identify, very simple to get to the information that you need to resolve the issues. So going back to the customers, I've shown you how to look at a customer. We're going to show you how we can edit some basic customer information. So here is the customer name and their email address. If you allow your customers to have a user dashboard, sometimes MSPs, you're providing the service and you don't want the customer to have access, so you'll provide them with a report, and I'll show you how to do that later. But if you do want them to have access when you create it, it sends an invitation to them to create their own dashboard, and then you will always have their username and the email associated with that. And if they call you because they forgot their password or something like that, we give you a simple reset password command. For your records only, here is the information for that customer, or their email address. We will show you if we have any externals identified for that customer, which is a good point. When you get a Nodeware sensor, you can do their internal networks with the sensor, but in addition to that, we'll allow you to do external scans. And an external can be either a URL, so if you want to give us their URL for their website, we will submit an external vulnerability scan. Or if you're giving us an IP address, that could be an app server set up in their DMZ. So either a URL or an IP address, when you submit it, that will go into our queue up in the cloud. We will first examine it to make sure it is not blacklisted. We will not do something such as Microsoft or Yahoo, Facebook, Google, but providing it's a valid website or a valid IP address, it will then be scanned for vulnerabilities from the cloud. It uses the same engine that we're using on the inside, the same sensor, but we're doing it from the cloud so that we can see the external interfaces for your customer. So it's very simple to add externals. You can manage the licenses for this customer. So if you wanted to deactivate this customer, simply X here and it would delete the key from their sensor. If, on the other hand, you wanted to add another license, so if they had some other sub-networks or a remote site that you wanted to add a new sensor, simply click here. It would generate a new key for that customer, and then you would add that key into the Nodeware sensor. And I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. You can set alerts for your customer. So the 3 levels of alerting: if a new critical vulnerability is found, or any critical vulnerabilities are found on that network, you receive an email. If a new device is detected, so something new has come onto that network that we've never seen before, you'll receive an email. Or if the sensor, the Nodeware sensor, fails to communicate with the cloud for 30 minutes or more, you'll receive an email. Now we will know within 30 seconds, you'll see it if you go into the dashboard that has gone offline, but we know that networks go offline and online, so we give it a period of time to resolve itself. If after 30 minutes we've not heard from a sensor, we will send you an email to notify you of that situation. If you did enable the end user to have their own dashboard, by clicking here, you'd be able to give the end user the same 3 options that you have so that they can receive emails upon any of these conditions. If you wanted to delete this customer, you went ahead and you removed the licenses for that customer and they are no longer a valid Nodeware customer, you'd be able to delete them here. To create a new customer is very easy. Up here, it says Add New Customer. This is where you would create a name, ABC Inc., give the contact, and their email address. Now, if you wanted that customer to have a user dashboard, you'd click here. If you do not want to give them a user dashboard, simply hit Submit. And now what I've done is I've created a customer just like the other 2 that have licenses. I can go back and add further information. At any point in time, if I want to give them the capability of having their own user dashboard, I can send them an email invitation, and that will ask them to create their own ID and provide their contact information. I can add their mailing address. And from here, as I just showed before with the existing customer, I could add external scans. I can go ahead and generate a key that I can later load into either a virtual sensor or into the physical Nodeware sensor on their account, set up their alerts, delete the customer, or whatever. So I can fully manage my customers. And now that I've created it, I can see that I have 2 active customers, and I have 1 that has been defined but has not been activated yet. So let's go into the next level about how do I manage my licenses and activate existing customers. So under Manage, I'll start off with looking at my inventory. I can see the total number of licenses that I have allocated to me, that I have purchased. And in this case, I have 25 internals. When you buy an internal license, you automatically get 3 external licenses associated with that. So here, I have 25 that I've purchased, and I have 75 externals with that. I can see that I have 2 licenses that have been activated, and I have 2 externals that have been activated. A quick note is that I do not have to allocate these externals to the internal licenses in a 1 to 3. So that is saying, what I'm saying here is, for one customer, I can assign all 75, or I can assign 1, or I can assign none. It is completely up to you how you want to allocate those internal licenses and the external licenses. If I want to see where these licenses are currently allocated, I click on Active Keys, and it will show me each of my customers, and it will show me the licenses that I have assigned to those customers. So if I want to activate a new customer, I can generate a key, either from within that customer or from the management, and it will have a license key. I can copy that key to the clipboard. Now there's 2 ways that a customer can have a Nodeware sensor. One is a physical box, a physical Nodeware sensor, or the second one is a virtual sensor, which could be running in a VMware or Hyper-V environment. In either case, the sensor will have an IP address. To activate that sensor, you go to that IP address, you key your IP address in your browser, and it would bring up a screen that looks like this. To activate either the virtual sensor or the physical sensor, simply put in the key and hit activate. That will go back to the system, make sure it's a valid key, and then at that point, you'd be showing a screen that looks like this. This has now been activated, and you give it 2 or 3 minutes. When you go back to that client, you'll see that the inventory is starting to be populated, and then the scores will start to show up. A Nodeware sensor, either virtual or physical, by default is set to look at one network, and we can scan up to 1024 IP addresses for a particular network. You can configure this so that it can look at up to 4 Class C subnets. So you can give it 4 ranges, each up to 256 IP addresses, and it will go ahead and from one sensor, you can verify it, but from one sensor we can monitor up to 4 Class C subnets. The requirement here is that layer 2 communications is enabled on the router or switch that this is working on. Layer 2 will enable us to see the MAC addresses on the subnets. If you have layer 3 enabled and layer 2 turned off, that will mask the MAC addresses on those other subnets. So in order to do more than one, to do 4 subnets, you do have to have layer 2 communications enabled. So if you're at a customer and you're not too sure how many sensors you're going to need for that customer, we do provide a calculator. It is at nodeware.com/calculator. And this will ask you a couple basic questions. We'll start off with how many remote sites do they have. Then within each site, you can give it a name, and you can say the number of subnets at that site. And it'll ask the protocol. So do you have layer 2 enabled or not? And is it DHCP? So will I be able to get an IP address on that? In this particular case, since it does have layer 2, we're saying that you only need one sensor, and it can be virtual or hardware. So you can do the same thing for the second location, called location 2. Total number of subnets, let's say this one also has 3, but in this particular case, it is layer 3 only. And it is telling me, regardless of its DHCP, let's go ahead and put that in, discovered. But it's going to tell me in this case, since it's layer 3, I'm going to need 3 sensors. Once again, it could be virtual or hardware, but because of that layer 3, I would need 3 sensors for this location and 1 sensor here for a total of 4 sensors. So with that information, I can come back here and look at my inventory, and I have plenty. But let's say I'd used up all of my inventory. I can come in next to shop under Shop Our Products. And in this case, I would have to get 4 new licenses. And so I can get 4 licenses. And if I needed to get any hardware, I can buy however many sensors I needed to buy. So let's say for the one location, I wanted 1 physical sensor, and I'll use 3 licenses from up here and simply place my order from the screen. The physical sensor, I had to order from shop our products. For the virtual sensors, from the management, I come down to the downloads, and downloads will allow me to actually download the virtual sensor. So from here, I can download the software needed, and that can be loaded into either a VMware or a Hyper-V environment. So as I mentioned earlier, some of your customers, you may want to give them access to a dashboard. Other ones, you may decide that you are doing this as a managed service. You only want to give them a physical report. So in that case, when it's time for you to do a report and give it to your customer, you select the customer that you want to run and hit generate report. And within 2 to 5 minutes, you'll receive an email with a link, a secure link for downloading that report. And this is what it would look like. It will show you the customer's name, when the report was run, the overall health of the network. We'll show you the top 10 vulnerabilities by criticality, so the top 10 most severe vulnerabilities. We'll show you the top vulnerabilities that are found by the number of times it was found across the network. We'll give you a little graphic as far as the total number of vulnerabilities by criticality. We'll give you a table for all of the endpoints, and if you've done externals, they will be included. So endpoints and externals by severity, we'll give you that table, and that will show you the total number of vulnerabilities found, breakdown by criticality. And then these are hot linked, or if you scroll down, they will take you to those endpoints. And just like looking at the dashboard, it will give you a full description of each of the vulnerabilities and the resolutions. So this is a report that we provide for you default out of the box. And as you'll notice, there is no IGI or Nodeware branding on here. So you could take your letterhead, do a cover letter, an executive summary, and attach it with this report, and you have a full report provided for your customer. In addition to reports, you can also extract the data. So if you want to develop your own reports or save the information or integrate it into another tool that you're using, you can take the data, export the data for this customer, and it gets exported in a JSON format. In addition to exporting the data, we also have an API. So if you wanted to develop your own dashboard or integrate it with another tool set that you have, let us know, and we will provide you with the API and the information on how to do the integration. For support, we have a full online wiki. So based on the different categories, how to order, how to get your licenses, how to actually do the installation. So if you want to do an installation in a VMware environment, we'll give you step-by-step directions on how to do that. If there is a technical issue, you can always send an email to support@nodeware.com, and that will go to our support team, and that will start the information going back and forth between you and support on how to fix your issue. Enhancements from our product are done primarily on feedback from our partners such as yourself. So we give you 2 ways of providing feedback directly to our development team. One of them is for general information that you'd like our development team to consider and give us general feedback, or if you'd like to request a specific feature, same here. You can describe the feature and why you think it's important, and this will go to our development team and will be evaluated and placed into our product roadmap. So once again, this is the Nodeware environment. Very simple, intuitive to use, starting with the elements to give you an overview of your customers and being able to look at your customers, and with a simple looking at customer and 1 click to get to the customer, 1 to look at an endpoint, and to look at a vulnerability, and then to get the information on that vulnerability. Simple 1, 2, 3. And then take you right back to where we began. To log out, there we go.